Wow. Just wow. Everybody's losing their minds over the Morph thing. Like, it's crazy. I've seen people do their videos. I've seen posts. Like, people flat out just like, the show is ruined. I'm not watching the show. It died in, 97. I'm done. And it goes because apparently the showrunner says something along the lines, and not quoting them here, and you'll see some of the images on the screen. They're coming up now. That he was saying something along the lines like Sinister is going to be the big bad. Morph, he was like, Morph is going to be a little bit more lighthearted and non-binary, and also going to be cool with Wolverine, like their relationship. Now, the interesting thing is that I find it funny just because when you look at the trailer, and if you've noticed, I haven't really been doing I used to bring that noise trailers, but sometimes it takes me so long to get to the movies, and I got a lot going on with, work and schedule that I can't be as consistent as I want to be on stuff, and that's just life, right? Like, I have several videos I'm still trying to get to edit. One of them's going to be old, but it's still go out there because it's still, like, relevant to a degree. That's my thoughts on it. But on this particular instance, it's kind of interesting because Morph is based off a Changeling. Now, if you look at that look, yes, that's the character Changeling, but where I ended up really connecting with Morph was with my one of my all-time favorite comic book series. And I'll give you a quick background. And definitely, if you get the chance, if you can get the volumes or this, check this out, okay? So there is a dimension hopping group, and I even and my friend will attest to this, I'm responsible for bringing them back for a short snip, but they kind of did something weird with it. If you go with the X-Men, what ended up happening was that I actually got this comic series with Excalibur, where it was like Captain Britain, Nightcrawler was a part of the group, Rachel, Summers, and several of them, and it was this really cool group. And what my favorite story out of there was when they actually had this, like, because Kitty Pryde and Lockheed was in there and stuff. Like, there were several characters in there. They had this, like, ship thing that transported them. That was a cool little cartoon looking funny face thing. And what ended up happening was that they actually hopped dimensions. And it's one of the first stories I actually followed where they were hopping dimensions. They went to like an anime world, stuff like that. And I really liked it. That was even though I read like Flash and Two Worlds stuff, that was my first heavy taste of a multi-dimensional story that really connected with me. And I really I was like, man, I would love to have more adventures with someone just going through the universe. Then I found out about Exiles. And once Exiles came out, I started picking that comic book up like crazy. If I don't have every issue, it is the one comic series, I can tell you flat out, that's a long-running series. If I don't have every issue of like the original run, I'm pretty close to having all of them. Like, I'm not that far off. So that's the thing where I got used to Morph looking a certain way, being a certain way, and I really liked Morph. And I liked his character. I liked how he did stuff. I liked the arcs. Some arcs were better than others when like they did like the uniform, when they wanted them all to be in uniforms and stuff. But it was cool with Sex Air Tooth and all that. Anyway, that's where I really got used to Morph looking like the white, like pudgy, like silly putty. So now they're doing this newer thing, and he has his old costume. And I think the backstory was that Morph, when he was a baby, he was born, but he like unconsciously morphed into whatever his parent looked like, but a baby version. I think that's how he got around it. So now they're saying, I can't believe they're putting these modern things inside of this show. And then there's people, I seen some articles that are defending it, and I see some people because they're like, oh my god, don't make this be woke, and they're like, you don't understand X-Men. X-Men's always been woke. I keep trying to explain to people, there's a difference between being diverse and being woke. Diverse means that you have someone in there, you have the best person for it, you have a character they just happen to be. Being woke is the entire character. And I always go back to Velma is woke. Mindy Kaling's Velma. Spider-Verse is diverse. Let's talk about the first movie. That's how you do it. So there are people like, well, they're supposed to be dealing with social issues, doing stuff like this, stuff like that. And I'm like, that is true. And they're like, I can't believe it. Non-binary wasn't even a thing back in the 90s and stuff like this. Which is, okay, yeah, you know, I think they called it androgynous at the time. But if you pay attention and you look at for example, check out this image. The Daily Bugle has Eddie Brock writing something and Peter Parker taking the photos. And it also mentions, is Spider-Man a mutant? That is something that was in House of M, and it was also in a recent one of the comics dealing with the Orcus thing, where the Sentinel falsely, because Spider-Man was trying to break up something, the Sentinel falsely said he was a mutant, and then people started going, well, is Spider-Man a mutant? That's like, and I'm talking, this is like maybe a couple like issues ago. So that's new. And the Hellfire Gala, the mutant fashion show, like that's new. So they're already throwing modern things in there. The animations are right. I felt like they did that simplistic breakdown animation. I'm not always a fan of that because I think they probably used it to, and now I have seen some stuff about it and I kind of gauged it that it was to stop some curvaceousness, because some people have told me when we were kids with Rogue, they were like, you know? So it is what it is, but it's a simpler art. I think it'll still work fine for what they're trying to do. And it feels like they're trying to be a little bit more action-packed or action-oriented. And simpler art does work that way, so we'll see. But when people are like really flipping out about the non-binary thing, and I get it, I call it a red flag. It's a check in the point of, okay, if you start making this the focus of his character and not just being, okay, he's non-binary, okay, move on. They may reference to Morph as they or them, and I don't think they ever referenced it in the comics. I think Morph's always been a he. But okay, if you want to do that. See, I have a thing about shapeshifters and people like with certain powers like Prodigy, who gets information from people's head and like stuff like that. You're talking about a guy who literally in the Exiles turned into a brick, or a character that turned into a brick. You know, like you're legit talking about a character that legit turned into a brick. So it's kind of one of those things. Like, if Morph is non-binary, is it so horrible? Like I said, don't get me wrong. I get it. I have apprehension myself. You never know, because when they take the inch, they take a mile. Honestly, depends on the execution, you know? Like, they could turn around, they could be like, okay, let's make whole episodes about this and about these other things. For example, I don't like the way they made Iceman gay because there's history there. To be honest with you, Morph or Changeling, if you really think about it, I don't think has a lot of history when it comes to relationships. So, or I guess they now. But Morph usually was considered a guy. So I understand. And I'm not saying that I don't get the anger towards it, but there is the factors that do, that does come into play, that sometimes, yeah, they're going to modernize something. It does happen. And I get that. Now, if it's something where it's like when they did that Lord of the Rings thing, and that one chick kept saying how she needed to be in these spaces and needed to be in these spaces, and I think she was in the show for like 5 minutes. They do it for clout, and with it, they pick the character. And this is where I'm kind of like I said, it depends on how they do it. They pick the character that it can make the most sense for. Morph can look like a woman, Morph can look like a man, Morph can look like a cartoon character, Morph can look like a tree, Morph can look like whatever. So when it's something like that, there's a possibility that Morph may actually be like, well, I'm not really anything. I'm an amorphous putty. So I can understand it, but I think the extreme of I'm not even going to look at the show, give it a chance, or do nothing. First off, half the people that say that honestly are lying. They're going to at least check out an episode. But then if you're going to sit there and not even look just to see what they possibly did, yeah, I always have a policy when it comes to a show. Give it 4 episodes. If you're not hooked or in it by 4 episodes, or you can't stand it by like the end of episode 1 or 2, I don't think it's fair to do pilots. Even though this is a continuation still as a pilot, I don't think it's fair to judge a show off of pilots, because I've seen shows change. Most times, if a show doesn't hook me by 4 episodes, that means that I'm not going to really be into the show. So when it comes down to the X-Men thing, all I'm saying is, let's, the whole extreme, I'm going to cut it off. If you're going to cut it off, that's your right, that's your purpose, that's your way, fine, whatever. I do think it's stupid that the Jubilee voice actress said because she's not Asian, she's not going to play the voice. That's stupid. You're playing a voice. It doesn't matter who it is. I'm going to give it the job to an Asian person. Asian people do voice acting just like anybody else. Are you going to not voice act a robot because you're not a robot? Like, stop. Like, people need to stop with the virtue signaling thing. So I'm just saying, I do understand, but I seen like some articles, and like I said, you'll see on screen, of just like, bigots are mad. Bigots. Well, yeah, but so are other people, because you're adding, I get why people are upset. You're adding something that kind of feels unnecessary and wasn't a part of it. But at the same time, X-Men are allegories for like civil rights movements, racism, unfair treatments, prejudice, things like that. So I actually do understand. At the same time, I do like that there are some people trying to defend people, like, ho, people have a right to not be happy with this change, because what purpose does it serve besides virtue signaling? Now, the reason why I understand what people mean by that is because too many times they're not respecting what they're doing. Like, it's the way you present the character is how you go through with what you're doing and how you present the story. And that's really what the problem comes in. So I can see it from both sides. To me, it's more of a red flag, even with the changes in the animation and stuff. And I'm thinking it's more because of the action. They got most of the voice actors back. Wolverine still sounds a little weird, but I do get it. It's because the dude, Cal, is like older, so his voice changed a little. So I'm hoping it's more of a, he's getting into a groove kind of thing. But it does happen. Our voices do change as we get older. So I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm like over the moon that they did it, but if it's something where it's to add to the character, but it's not like a central focus on the character, where the whole time they're like, hey, Morph, how you doing? Yeah, he went, where did Morph go? Oh, he went that way. Oh, you better not call him a he. You better call it it. Like that's where I'm going to have an issue. Like, I'll never forget watching Supergirl, right? And the president, which was Linda Carter's character, who happened to be an alien. She just did a decree like 2 episodes prior, flat out stating, all aliens are welcome. Everybody's welcome to the United States. If you're an alien from outer space, or if you're here, you will get amnesty, blah, 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 right? So they had this character who I really like. It was played by Floriana Lima. I freaking love her character. I love her acting. I think she's awesome. I actually want to finish Punisher with her, and I really became a big fan of hers. They play a lesbian couple, her and her sister. And the dad comes, and he gets all upset, and then she's like, what's wrong, Poppy? And he's like, it's already hard enough that you're dealing with this one thing, and now you're going to turn around and you're going to be gay on top of Mexican. They're trying to have us build a wall. And they're trying to kick us out after we're done. And they're trying to make us all illegal and do our people. And it was all this modern day stuff that was happening with Trump. But it completely took you out of the story, because none of this was happening. He was like, they're trying to have us build a wall, and they're putting our children in cages, and blah, 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 blah. And none of that was happening in the show. The character flat out, the president said, no, we're good, like everything is cool, it's straight up, we're all right. Like, it was, and all aliens are welcome. It was nuts. That's the type of crap that I don't want to see, and that's the type of crap that I can't stand. And that's where all the people who doesn't understand why I had an issue with Doctor Who, that's why. You're not treating these people like people. You're treating them like trophies and things to show off. Like a dude treats his trophy wife where he doesn't really care. He just decides, I'm just going to show her off. Like a person being gay should not be their main character trait. And they do it all the time. A person being non-binary, a person being from the letter community, or being black. It shouldn't be like that all the time. And that's where the really heavy annoyance comes from. Because they're constantly doing that kind of crap. So, lo and behold, that's my take. I'm cautiously optimistic. It is a red flag. We'll see how it goes. I think it's unnecessary, but maybe it might be something to add to the character, where the character says, hey, you know what? I've been this way. I think I'm this. And if it's interwoven, fine. We'll see. But besides that, tell me what you think. Are you going to watch it, or are you going to completely just blow it off because they added a non-binary character in it? Well, Geek Protagonist, you stay safe, you stay healthy, you stay real, and I'll see you.